In this video, I'll show you how to build a B2B email list that doesn't just grow, it actually converts to revenue. I've built large lists that have turned into multi-million-dollar sales pipelines. I've also built small lists and converted those into early sales for early stage startups. I'll walk you through the steps that I use to build a lead list of buyers, not just names, so that you can stop wasting time on unqualified leads. If you don't know how to dial this in, then you're gonna have a lead list full of people that don't care about what you're selling. They're not gonna reply, they're gonna hurt your domains, your campaign will lose steam, and it might not even be your offer's fault. If you don't know how to dial this in, then your campaign is dead before it even starts. A good B2B email marketing campaign is made up of a series of steps that you need to follow exactly. And if one step isn't set up right, then it's going to ruin the rest of the campaign. It's like a series of dominoes. Making sure you build the right lead list is one of those dominoes. If you don't have that nailed, then your campaign is doomed to fail. You're going to be talking to the wrong people. You're going to be selling them stuff they don't want. You need to get this nailed. So here's the exact process for building a qualified list of actual prospects, not just people. Number one, most obvious, you need to define your ideal buyer. So first you need to figure out who is actually going to buy your product. Who's the best fit customer to buy your product? And you need to have an understanding of your product and what problems it actually solves. You'd be surprised how many people don't have a clear understanding of what their product actually does and who it helps. You need to nail that first. An easy way to do this is to take your product, put it into ChatGPT, and then without telling it what you think it does, ask ChatGPT, what does my product do? Who does it help? ChatGPT will tell you, and it might uncover some potential use cases that you hadn't thought of before. That stuff is useful for you because that's going to tell you who you need to be targeting, and then eventually what titles you need to be targeting as well. Once you have a clear idea of what your product does and who it helps, then you can start to figure out what would make someone in that profile even more high intent. What makes them ready to buy? Are they in the middle of a transition in their business? Did they just get funding? Are they hiring for sales teams or other roles? What kind of signals or what kind of things would make them in the market for your solution? Now you have your product, the types of businesses that it helps, and potential intent signals that will tell you whether someone is more ready to purchase than others. Now you almost have your ICP, your ideal client profile, except you haven't defined the actual people. What you need to do at this point is figure out what titles are most likely to make a buying decision for your solution. For example, if you have a solution that helps big enterprises cut costs through some accounting software, then you don't need to go to the chief product officer, but you do want to target the chief financial officer. Even the CEO would be a good target for you because those decisions are relevant to them. Again, you can go to any AI tool and give it the description of your product and who it serves, what kind of businesses, and then have it tell you which titles are most likely to make a purchasing decision. That is the best filtering mechanism to getting the wrong accounts out of the way. You don't want emails of people that are irrelevant to your campaign. And this is how you identify them. Now that you have a sense of who you should be targeting, at what companies, and what would make them even more high interest, you now need to figure out where to actually get those emails. A lot of people will tell you Apollo.io. And here's the truth about Apollo. It still works. You can still go to Apollo and get a lot of good data. You can go to ZoomInfo and get a lot of good data as well. I wouldn't really overthink this, to be honest. The thing you really need to consider is how many contacts you're getting and how good is the quality of those emails. So for example, if you go and you get a bunch of emails from ZoomInfo, but half of them don't work anymore, a bunch of people left their companies, this is just old data, that is just as bad as having no data. In fact, it's even worse because sending to those emails is going to hurt your mailbox reputation, which means it could ruin your infrastructure for sending. Always make sure you get a list. Always make sure you clean it in Million Verifier or BounceBin. And you can always leverage other databases as well. If you have a specific niche that you're targeting that feels really, really localized, maybe it's equipment manufacturers or something, then you can find lists of equipment manufacturers on these niche databases online. Just do a little bit of research and you'll find them. Now, if you really want to maximize your lead list, then you can use tools like Clay and you can combine multiple sources of verification. So you can get your list, you can plug it into Clay, and you can do something called waterfall enrichment, which basically allows you to verify your emails with Apollo. And then for the ones that aren't registered on Apollo, you can then verify it on Hunter.io or Lead Magic, and you can continue going down the waterfall until you get as much contact information as you can from all of those enrichment sources. So now you have your ICP, now you even have your contacts, and you're now trying to figure out, how do you segment your list? Should you segment your list? What kind of personalization should you have on the actual message level? Here's the deal about segmentation and personalization. You can go online and you can find all the data about someone and tell them that you really like that they went to some alma mater and that they're a fan of the Orioles. But the fact of the matter is, if it's irrelevant to whatever it is that they do in their work, they're going to ignore your email. People will think that personalization is the key to sounding not generic. The thing is, if you have some weird robotic LinkedIn AI generated summary of my profile, that's going to be worse than if you just told me what you're selling and I'm a relevant buyer to you. In other words, your offer should be good enough to sell on its own. That said, you might want to segment your campaigns depending on maybe different titles that you're selling to. For instance, if you're doing a campaign that goes to sales reps or sales managers at a company, then you might want to do some different messaging or maybe a different list than if you were selling to the VP or the C-suite at a company. Run them in 2 separate campaigns, track the performance separately, because at those levels of seniority, you want to see what's working and what's not. Once you've nailed your offer and you've broken it up by title and maybe seniority, that's when I would consider adding some level of personalization. There's a million ways to do this. If you really want to go and get in the nitty gritty of it, just go to Clay or find some GPT for Sheets extension that can do the same thing for you. Now, at this point, you have pretty much everything you need to start sending, but there's one thing I want to double click on because it's going to make or break your campaign. If you go and identify the right ICP and then you get the contacts from a database and you haven't cleaned the list, then you are going to ruin your campaign. When you don't clean your list, as in make sure that your emails are verified on Million Verifier or Unbounce or whatever, what happens is that you are going to start sending to emails that don't exist. Those emails will start to bounce, which means that ESPs or email service providers are going to look at your mailboxes and go, who are these spammers sending to emails that don't exist? These guys are just mass market spammers. We don't want to let them send on our platform, and they shut your domain down. Now all of your messages are going to spam. That is not a good look. Assuming that's all set up right and you're sending to a clean list, your bounce rate shouldn't go above 4%. Anything higher than that and you're putting your domains at risk, you're going to ruin your mailboxes, which means forget this campaign. You won't be able to send any campaigns from that mailbox. And then lastly, people always ask, how often do I need to update the list? How often should I re-clean my list or get a new list? And what happens if I run out of my list? Here's the deal. Depending on the database that you're looking at, your list is changing automatically. It's not like Apollo goes and gets a list of data and then it's the same stagnant data. It's constantly updating in the background. The real question you should be asking is, how long ago did you get that list from an Apollo or from a Zoom Info? The time between when you got your data pulled and when you send the campaign, that's the time you should be concerned about. Beyond that, maybe refresh the list every 90 or so days. I wouldn't do it much sooner. If you have a smaller list, that just means you need to be a lot more strategic with your campaign. That's how you build a lead list for B2B email campaigns that actually convert. If you want me to just take care of this for you, then book a call in the link in my bio and we'll figure out how to get it done for you.